All right, we're going to go ahead and get started today. Thanks to everyone again who has joined us. We're really excited to be having this conversation and are glad you are here with us on this Tuesday. My name is Lucy Barrier. I'm a policy analyst here at the Hunt Institute. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists for the day, and I have just a couple logistical remarks, and then I will turn it over to get this conversation started. So today, I'm very excited to be having our conversation on HBCUs in the wake of COVID-19. This conversation will really speak to the unique impact on our historically Black colleges and universities from the pandemic and kind of how they're moving forward. And with us to talk about this very important topic, we have Dr. Rosalind Clark-Artis, the president at Benedict College, Dr. Carrie Dixon, chancellor at Elizabeth City State University, and Angela Saylor at the Heritage Foundation. So thanks to all three of you for being with us today. We will have an audience Q&A portion. However, we will not be unmuting. You can submit your questions at any point throughout the webinar in the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We will get to as many of those as possible. It will most likely not be all of them, but we will do our best. Additionally, if you would like to follow along with our conversation today on Twitter, you can follow our hashtag race and education and follow along on our Twitter at @Hunt_Institute and feel free to engage in conversation there as well. And on that note, Angela, I will turn it over to you to get our conversation started.
Thank you, Lucy. Good afternoon to everyone. Again, I'm Angela Saylor, and I'm the Vice President of the Fulner Institute at the Heritage Foundation, where we advance research and scholarship toward promoting the American ideal and cultivating meaningful engagement with civil society. Thank you to the Hunt Institute for hosting this very important discussion. You know, the livelihoods of millions of Americans have been deeply disrupted in the face of COVID-19. And the US economy shrank at a 31.7% annualized pace. Serious financial problems have been concentrated among Black and Latino households with annual incomes below $100,000. And reports show at least 4 in 10 Latino, Black, and Native American households have been depleted of most or almost all of their savings during this time. So as we grapple with how we save livelihoods while getting Americans back to work, back to school, and reopening doors of opportunity for everyone, we know for sure the ultimate measure of our nation's vitality and strength is going to be seen in our ability as people and as institutions to prevail during these times of challenge and controversy. As a proud HBCU graduate, I am so excited about how HBCUs are leading the way to provide solutions in the post-pandemic era. The quintessential leadership of the HBCU community is more crucial than ever. Today, we're going to discuss how HBCUs have been on the front line, responding to the impact of COVID-19 and providing reliable, safe havens for students through housing, through food security, healthcare access, mental health support, and much more. We will also discuss the critical role HBCUs are playing towards shaping the future of higher education and impacting the global economy. I want you to welcome again our distinguished speakers, Dr. Rosalind Clark-Artis, president of Benedict College, and Dr. Carrie Dixon, chancellor of Elizabeth City State University. Dr. Artis, let's begin the conversation with you with a question that will allow you to put everything on the table in terms of how you want to start framing the discussion. As the leader, the president of Benedict College, what's been the greatest challenge in responding to and recovering from the impacts of COVID-19?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this very important conversation. And thank you for the great question that really enables me to frame the work we do here at Benedict College. our greatest challenge really was meeting the personal needs of our students in the wake of COVID-19, which was further exacerbated by the challenges following the murder of George Floyd. So you can imagine a confluence of events that occurred in our country over the last 24 months that really placed our HBCUs front and center in terms of meeting the needs of our students academically, socially, emotionally, physically, and to some extent, even spiritually. Benedict College was among the institutions, actually among all institutions, that were forced to close its doors early in March in response to COVID-19. What we learned very quickly was that education was merely one of the services that institutions like Benedict College provide. 31% of my students have housing insecurity. 12% of my students have no access to broadband technology in their home communities. And so among the challenges, stable home environments, food, addressing food insecurity issues, addressing technology challenges, and how we deploy education in an environment where students simply do not have access. And then ultimately the mental health challenges that, as I mentioned earlier, were exacerbated by the racial tensions we saw across the country. While our nation's HBCUs really play a critical role in shaping the dialogue around issues of equity and inclusion nationwide, our inability to wrap our arms around our students in the wake of the long, hot summer of 2020 really compromised our ability to help them to unpack the complexities of their feelings, to address their needs socially and emotionally, and help them to adapt to what became very quickly a new reality for them. So through the provision of food subsidies, housing subsidies, healthcare stipends, mental and emotional support, counseling, advising, and a real triage approach to student services at Benedict College, I think we did a yeoman's job. We saw a 12% increase in student retention during a very critical period of time. And I think really demonstrates the quality work that Benedict College and its staff and faculty did during that period of time, and really cements our position. We talk about the best of BC, and typically that's synonymous with our status as a Black college. But in this context, best and BC really meant Benedict cares. BC is for Benedict cares about her students. And I think we demonstrated that over the last 24 months.
You know, that's incredible. So many people were so inward thinking about their own lives. And as you were talking, it, just makes your mind open up to really a lot of the different issues that different organizations and institutions had to really dive in head first to deal with, to meet people where they were. And that's so incredible. I can't wait for us to continue the conversation. But Dr. Carrie Dixon, let's give you the floor now to talk about the greatest challenges and how you're dealing with the impact of COVID-19 as the leader of your great institution.
Thank you so much, Angela. And thank you to the Hunt Institute for hosting such a critical conversation today regarding our HBCUs and our response to COVID-19. So I want to start by just saying, I totally agree with everything that President Artis just outlined in regards to how she responded with her campus to COVID-19 and adjusting to that. And, the reality is there was no book or no manual for any of us to read or to go by when it came to preparing our campus to continue to be successful throughout this pandemic. And this is where leadership is tested. And as you can see, as President Artis described, we had to make some tough decisions. But in those tough decisions that we were making, we always kept our students first and our campus community first, because that's what we do. And so I'll just start by saying at Elizabeth City State University, we're located in northeastern North Carolina. And in the spring of 2020, when we were all forced to pivot to online instruction and remote working, we had to do so quickly. And this was something nobody anticipated, but we also knew that it was out of our control. And we needed to respond in a way that we would continue to help our students finish out the semester and finish out the semester successfully. And so where we're located, we're surrounded by Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties in North Carolina. 21 Tier 1, Tier 2 counties surround Elizabeth City State University. Tier 1, Tier 2 counties are the most economically distressed counties in North Carolina. That's how they're classified. So when we had to move to online instruction, we knew we were going to face some challenges. And some of those challenges was just access Wi-Fi. lack thereof. There was no Wi-Fi to some of our students going back home. How would they continue to out semester if they couldn't connect with technology? So we had to purchase laptops. We had to purchase hotspots. We had to mail those out, and with some partnerships we had with business and industry, we were able to do so and cover those costs. But we had to do what we needed to do in order to make sure our students could be successful and finish out the semester strong. And so that broadband service or lack thereof in some of those areas was a huge challenge for us. We also had to make accommodations on campus. We have a small percentage of our students who are homeless or have other home situations that needed to be dealt with. So we had to make sure that we took care of them and made accommodations for them to remain on campus. And it was a very small number, but we still wanted them to have everything that was necessary for them to be successful throughout the semester. And so our team worked all summer, and we prepared using CDC guidelines, protocols to make sure that we were able to welcome our students back in fall 20. And we built a culture of expectation. And that was my message to my campus community. We will build a culture of expectation. So many will ask, well, what does that mean? Well, it means holding each other accountable and doing the right thing so that we minimize the spread of COVID on our campus. And we did that. Why? Because our students knew that it was going to take them making a strong commitment to do the right thing and to hold each other accountable so that that spread would not maximize and they would be able to stay on campus for the entire semester. And so they were able to do that in the fall 20 semester as well as the spring 21 semester. So we're very happy with their commitment to building this culture of expectation and doing the right thing. So the HER funding, when we think about the financial impacts of COVID-19 on our HBCU campuses, the federal funding, HER funding, CARES Act, all of that really helped us throughout the pandemic to keep our business operations going. Yes, we were losing money. Yes, we had to reimburse students for housing and dining. Those are things that HBCUs, we aren't, funded as we would like. And so, having that funding to help, to replace some of the loss that we were seeing on the financial side was very helpful as well. So we were very committed to doing the right thing and spending those dollars wisely. And then lastly, I'll just mention, as we continue through a sense of uncertainty as we think about, what will this pandemic look like for our students coming back to campus, we were surprised that we still grew. ECSU grew 13% during the pandemic of the fall semester. And so we are very happy that our students and prospective students and families, they wanted to come back to campus, and we gained new students, and we continue to grow and just do the right thing as a campus community.
Thank you. I tell you, this is we are making history for the history books, and I want to just throw in one kind of personal question for both of you. I think back on the president of the Heritage Foundation, Kay Coles James, and the fact that she was the director of OPM during 9/11. And she often talks about, yes, her executive leadership style in that moment. There was something more personal for her, for the nation at that time, being a woman in that position. And you two are two dynamic women who, communities are relying on. And I just am curious to know, as we were coming to really realize this was a pandemic, this wasn't something that was just going to pass over, and this was going to be with us for a while, what was going through your mind, and how did you just kind of step emotionally into that executive decision-making process that needed to happen for the lives of so many young people? Dr. Artis, I'll start with you.
So another really great question. And I'll tell you that I will walk into the stereotype for a moment. I am the mother of three, but I often say I'm the mother of 2,103, three that I gave birth to and 2,100 that I'm entrusted with by virtue of my role as president of Benedict College. And so as we think about that role, I take that pretty seriously. I want to care for my students in the same way that I would care for my own children. So are their basic needs being met, right? Are they secure? Have they eaten? Are they safe? Maslow's hierarchy, right? Are they self-actualized? Are they reaching their fullest potential? Do they feel supported, engaged? One of the things that we really embraced here at Benedict College is the notion of intentional empathy. And that really means intentionally placing yourself in the position of another person and trying to help walk through the challenges that they might be experiencing. So, on occasion, it might shock you to hear this, but on occasion we have students who express themselves in ways that are often unbecoming. They may express some frustration or some anger or incivility, if you will. By practicing intentional empathy, we're able to break through that. We're able to listen for what they're really trying to say. So we had a student very upset who said, I don't have access to internet. I need. You're not helping me. She really wasn't upset with us. We certainly don't run broadband lines. We don't create connectivity. And yet she was asking for help. And when my staff member, who was amazing, actually her name is Jamila Lynn, she leads our program, our special population programming here. When she unpacked and really tried to distill down what the student was upset about, she had a parent that was currently incarcerated. And the news was reporting that COVID-19 was ravaging incarcerated populations. She was afraid for her parent, for her family member. She wasn't upset about broadband. She wasn't upset about not being in school. She was terrified for the safety of her family member. So by practicing intentional empathy, by placing yourself in the shoes of that person, by listening with intentionality, being purposeful and asking questions that are probing and probative, designed to elicit what's really going on with our kids. It helps us to really break through and be the parent, if you will, to provide those basic needs to those students and really champion their needs. There's no question, HBCUs operate in rarefied air. We are serving a population of students who don't have options, not because of their academic acumen, but because of the circumstances they find themselves in financially, physically, and otherwise. And so if we are to be the institutions that we seek to be, it's imperative that we listen with intent, that we are purposeful about being empathetic, and that we go the extra mile to engage and support our students to enhance their opportunities for success.
Wow, I tell you, when people ask the question, well, what makes HBCUs different and special? I wish I had been able to record that and push play, because I think you just really articulated it in the most profound way. Dr. Dixon, to you, what were you thinking? How did you emotionally lean into the moment that you were in, like for such a time as this?
So I would start by saying, as we know on this panel, and my colleague, Dr. Artis, knows, that leadership is not easy. And, we're put in position all the time to make very difficult decisions. And I think, approaching this with, a clear-eyed approach of what is our priority. And our priority is to do all we can to make sure our students remain safe and well by all aspects, both physically, mentally, and our campus community is protected also. And so part of that leadership is having a good team as well. And so when I talked about what we did over the summer, it took a strong leadership team to come up with a vision for how do we continue to sustain as an institution through a pandemic that's surrounded by uncertainties and unknowns. And I hear people say all the time that this is unprecedented times. Well, as a leader, we know that, and we have to make those decisions that are for the long term of what happens now and how that reflects on us later. And so I think, and President Artis mentioned this, the spiritual aspect of it as well. For me, it took a lot of prayer. I tell you, I'll be very clear about that. But it also took, just looking at things, looking at the data, listening to the CDC, listening to the executive orders that our governor put in place in North Carolina, and just trying to make sure that we had our campus protocols, CDC protocols in place, and do everything that we knew was told to us that needed to be done so that we could welcome our students back. So leadership is definitely tested in times like this. And it takes those who stay firm to the priorities and firm to the belief of understanding that we have all these lives that we are impacting as we make these decisions. And so I think, that's a huge piece of what it means to be a good leader, when you're able to not feel defeated, not feel panicked, but do what you can do and make the tough decisions that you can make based on the information that you have. And I think for all of us, that's what we do each and every day. And that's why we're able to sustain.
Amen to that. Dr. Artist, as we are looking at the fall and universities and colleges across the country, saw a dip in enrollment, right? And they're hoping for increased numbers. There's also this dynamic of acceptance over the spring where many colleges and universities had lower acceptance rates because they had to balance those numbers against what happened with COVID in terms of the incoming class in 2020. So how are you looking at that? What are the numbers looking at like? And is there also a dynamic there that you all have to deal with international students as you're looking at retaining a new flow of students coming to your campus?
That is a multi-part question. So what we saw at Benedict College was entirely consistent with what we saw across the country. So according to the National Student Clearinghouse data, there were declines in first-time college enrollment in private institutions of approximately 8% across the board, across the country. For non-selective institutions, i.e. those that are beneath your Ivies and sub-Ivies, the number expanded to 16%. So the less selective, the higher the losses were. So for some of our campuses, Benedict landed in the 12 to 14% range, which is quite significant. For an institution with about 2,100 students, that meant we lost about 300 students in the fall. And so when you really quantify that, it's quite significant for the institution. And so for that reason, the federal and state supports for COVID-19, the CARES Act, HERF, those kinds of things really insulated us against the most significant impact of those losses. And bigger than the enrollment challenges really was the housing number. So Benedict opted to open throughout the pandemic. Benedict was open. We recognized that because of the food and housing insecurity issues, as well as, quite frankly, public safety issues. We lost a student to gun violence in July. That really cemented the notion that our students were safer on our campus. They were living in overpopulated, low-wealth households with family members who were frontline workers, restaurants, grocery stores, things like that. So we were seeing incidences of positive COVID-19 cases at home to a far greater extent than we were seeing it on the campus. And so we chose to open in August and we brought our babies home to the campus. And so as we tracked and trended our enrollment, we were at about 50% census for on-campus housing. So that was a real decrease in housing revenue for us as well. Fortunately, as we trended into the spring, we actually beat our budget projections and began the rebound. So several hundred more students in spring than we had in the fall. And at present, as I look at enrollment numbers for the fall, we're actually trending to exceed our budget by several hundred students. And so it looks like our students are coming home. Our babies are coming back. They recognize that this institution really looked out for their best interest, is very well prepared to maintain their safety. Despite the fact that we were open, we had a very minimal infection rate. We tested extensively. Actually, we were one of the institutions that chose to test 100% of our population over and over and over. So Benedict did literally thousands of COVID-19 tests. We were a community testing site. We wanted to be a resource to the community. As we think about our international student population, a very special and unique population for us, Benedict had seen historic numbers of international student enrollment the year prior to COVID-19. And so to be able to prepare for those students, we first had to watch the roller coaster that was sort of federal government policy in relation to students coming and going across the borders. Now we're watching testing protocols in other countries. We are not mandating the vaccine, but strongly encouraging the vaccine for our students coming back in the fall. Many of our international students have quite frankly said that the vaccines are not available in their countries. So we were in meetings just this morning, arranging with our community partners for vaccination sites on the campus during move-in week to ensure that our students can be safely vaccinated, isolated until that vaccine has had a chance to take effect, and then reintegrated into the student population. So I think all of us, I'm certain Dr. Dixon is doing the same on her campus, making sure that we look out for our unique populations, getting to the root cause of what the challenges or impediments might be to their full enrollment, and beginning to eliminate those barriers to bring our kids home.
Wow. Well, Dr. Dixon, I want to take the conversation in a slightly different direction with this question to you. You know, we've seen police brutality across the country, and there's been a national outcry towards that end. And we've also looked at, you know, the amount of people of color who have died from COVID. And I'd like for you to just kind of talk about and share with people what that meant on your campus for your institution in terms of dealing with these very important issues, but wrapped around a pandemic all at the same time. You all had right there in your neighborhood, you know, the killing of Andrew Brown. And I'm sure that you've had to also deal with students who were not necessarily themselves infected by COVID, but family members and losing close family members and friends towards that end.
Well, thank you, Angela, for the question. I want to start by expressing my condolences to all families who have lost loved ones during this pandemic due to COVID, as well as those who have lost loved ones due to acts of violence and police violence. And as you mentioned, you know, it's a very critical time here in our country. And with all those factors, you know, that we're all dealing with right now, all around us, you know, it does make you really put as a priority, what is the well-being of my brother and my sister? And I say that collectively from the standpoint of taking care of each other. And so over, you know, the past 20 months or so, we've experienced one of the most challenging periods in the world, nation, state, and local history, as you mentioned. And, you know, as chancellor of Elizabeth City State University, I have been in this post for 3 years. And I never would have imagined that in those 3 years, I've dealt with 2 major hurricanes that have come very close to my campus and dealing with damage and evacuating our students from the campus, a pandemic, a major cyber attack, and then, as you mentioned, just social injustices that have affected our country, our community, and our campus in such a compact span of time. You know, that's a lot coming at anybody at any point in time. So as you mentioned, in April, our community experienced social unrest resulting from the killing of Mr. Andrew Brown. And this was right at the end of the spring semester. It was a week or so from the end of the semester where the killing actually occurred in April, and protesting went on for a week or so. And then the mayor declared a state of emergency in the city of Elizabeth City. So with that state of emergency, there was information provided that led myself, the president of the College of the Albemarle, and the president of Mid-Atlantic Christian University, all 3 higher education institutions right here in the city of Elizabeth City, as well as K-12, to pivot quickly and send our students home and to complete the semester remotely. So of course, right here at the end of the semester, nobody wants to have to make a decision like that. But under the information, with the information that was provided, it was the right thing to do. And so of course, it wasn't popular for our students, and it wasn't popular per se for some of our families, but leadership is not easy. I'll keep saying that. And so we have to deal and we have to make the tough decisions based on the information that we're given. And that's just how this role evolves. And that's just who we are and what our responsibility is as leaders of these campuses. And so through it all, safety and the well-being of our students was our top priority. And we did not prevent our students from voicing their truth or going out and protesting while they were still here on campus. Not one time did I say, don't do it. And it's only because, you know, I do believe as like our students, our faculty, our staff, as well as myself as a wife, a mother, an educator, a leader of an HBCU, that we were all facing a multitude of emotions. We were facing anger, frustration, and heartbreak over the acts of violence that we were experiencing. We were watching this on television as it played out with George Floyd. And within 24 hours or 24 hours later, now it's right here in our backyard, right here in our community. So I knew that we had to do something quickly to make our students understand that they have a safe space on our campus. So the afternoon of Mr. Brown's death, we convened in person on our campus, all of our students, faculty, and staff who wanted to come together, gather together. I didn't want to do this on Zoom. I wanted to do it in person because I wanted them to know and see me and see that I too felt what they were feeling as we were seeing this play out right here in our community. And it just gave them an opportunity to have a safe space to voice how they feel. And I told them, it's okay to scream, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be angry, but we have a safe space here where we're going to talk through this. So we were all experiencing this mix of emotions. And over the days after that, I met with leadership, our faculty, our staff, and gave them as much information as I could as things continued to transpire. But by that time, our students were home, and we knew that this was going to be difficult. It was last minute. It was something we had to act on quickly. So with our student emergency fund, we bought plane tickets, bus tickets, train tickets, whatever our students needed, even gas cards, whatever they needed to get home. We were there to supply that for them and their families, just to make sure that they were in a safe space. And so, my message to the campus was that it's okay, as I mentioned, to feel the way that you were feeling. And it's okay to engage in peaceful raising of voices and the firm call for justice and to speak your truth. And the reality of it, as this played out in the city, Angela, the protests were all peaceful. And the protests went on for days and months, and not once did they get violent. These were peaceful protests in Elizabeth City. So it just showed how important it was to voice your truth, but to also know at the end of the day, this is our community, our neighborhood. We didn't want anything to come about any destruction of our home. And so people protested, yes, but they protested peacefully. And there, continues to be a need for conversation and discussions around racial and social injustices. And as institutions of higher education, specifically HBCUs, it is our responsibility to educate and inform our students and give them a forum, a safe space for this type of dialogue. And, things are changing. The tables are changing now with social media. There now seems to be a new level of consciousness. And as leaders of higher education institutions, this generation of students that we are serving, they have that new level of consciousness around race and social, political, economic. You can go on and on. They know because they see it and they read it and they live it. And so those demands just give us no other option but to become more accountable and transparent across our society, because that's what they demand. And we're going to have to do that. So things are going well right now here in Elizabeth City, but we're going to still give our students that forum, that our faculty and our staff and our community as we talk through some of these things and help everyone understand that without us coming together collectively, how do we expect the change that we're asking for? And so, or we're demanding. And so that's what's most important. And so it's definitely been a year, but things are back in place, and we're ready to welcome our students back in the fall.
Wow. I'll tell you, I mean, there's so much there that you said. And as I'm listening to both of you, I mean, you probably just don't know until the by and by what your leadership is teaching people. I mean, look at all the people who are looking at how you've handled, how you've led during this time and been inspired probably into their own leadership style. It's incredible. We have a question in the queue from one of the participants on if you're not inside of the HBCU nucleus community, how can one help, and what types of strategies are working for support, in the broader civil society to give you all additional resources and the wind beneath your wings as you're charging forward with such love and compassion and truth. Dr. Artis?
You could send me a check. And that sounds really crass, but it's sincere. There was a question in the chat about how can philanthropy support, and I offered about 4 things. The first is technology and equipment. The reality is our students, in order to be most competitive, in order to graduate work ready, they need to learn on state-of-the-art current technology and equipment in the classroom. While many of our institutions really distinguish themselves with face-to-face instruction. The beauty of what we do on HBCU campus tends to happen on the campus, in and outside the classroom. However, it cannot be argued with any degree of sincerity that if our students are learning on a computer that's 10 years older than students learning at a sister institution, they are equally competitive. And so we need equipment, supplies, and support on these campuses to make sure that our experience is equivalent and that our students are well prepared. Certainly, secondly, we need scholarship support for these kids. There is no reason that students, simply by virtue of their birthright, have to incur significant loan debt, have to work multiple jobs while they try to matriculate and keep pace with their classmates who do not have to work or to balance other responsibilities. And so to the extent that we can continue to build our scholarships, our endowments, things of that sort, to allow these students to matriculate free of the worry of one or more jobs and the debt burden that places them at a significant disadvantage from the moment they enter the workforce, we are all better for that. Certainly, in addition to that, the infrastructure for the institutions. We are building because we have to. Higher education is an arms race. I believe strongly our students deserve the very best, just as every other student at every other college or university. So when people say, oh, these kids want the world, they want private rooms, they want gymnasiums, they want Starbucks, so what? Other kids have it. Why shouldn't my kids have it too? And so we certainly are hoping to provide an equivalent, even exceptional experience to the students who choose to matriculate on our campuses, because they have chosen a culturally supportive and sensitive environment. Should not be a trade-off for gyms, Starbucks, and private rooms, right? We want them to have the very best experience they can possibly have. And fourth and finally, give yourselves. Be advocates for the space. Do not use language that is diminutive, that is a language of lack, that suggests that our students can't go anywhere else. My students can go any place they desire. They're academically competent and capable. They have chosen to study in a culturally sensitive environment. That does not mean a less than experience. It means an equal to or greater than experience, quite frankly. So be an advocate for HBCUs in the space. Be advocates for our students who may not have the cultural capital to have their parents call and get them an internship. You make that call for them. Offer them an internship and an opportunity to show you what they can do. They deserve the very same opportunities as other students. And be an ambassador for these kids and for the sector and the space. We need friends, we need supports, we need mentors, we need investors, we need friends. And I trust that each of you is willing and able to do that.
Dr. Artis, you just struck a chord with me on that language piece. I remember when I was graduating from undergrad and dealing with admissions offices and people, kind of insinuating you have an HBCU degree and you might not quite make it where you want to make it. And, I just shout out on the mountaintop, yeah, I graduated from an HBCU and I worked in the White House and I worked in the U.S. Department of Education, and on and on. And I say that to bolster the HBCUs. And the reason I think I was able to go forward and do that was because of the confidence that I gained from the experience to really believe deep down in my soul that anything I wanted to go for, I could do it. And I just see that resonating off of you all as leaders of the institutions, that students can do anything they put their mind for, and resources and barriers will be overcome if they just have the confidence to keep pushing and knocking those doors down. So Dr. Dixon, I want you to have the opportunity to say, what you would find helpful from people who are not in the immediate HBCU community towards showing support?
Well, I think Dr. Artis really summed it up well. I was going through her main points, and I was, they were very much aligned with my response to that question as well. Just focusing on the advocacy, the support, and the support can be your time, your talents, and your treasures. We want all of them. And then also another piece that has definitely been beneficial to my institution is helping us connect to business and industry, corporate partnerships, and other things that we can do to get our foot in the door. Because until now, you didn't see HBCUs in the limelight, quote unquote, as you do now. And so, there are corporations out there who want to work with HBCUs now, who are, publicly and verbally stating how important it is with the HBCUs and the alumni that they produce, and how they want to do more to hire and to provide internships. We need those connections. And so I would agree with what she mentioned and just add those, couple of caveats there to how you can help us. We're always open for help in any way that we can get, opportunities for our students, our faculty and staff to do research and ways in which you can help us. I'm sure there are many that we can partner on and ways that you can connect us to the people we need to get in front of.
Well, it's timely on this other question we have in the queue from Shannon Frank Reeves Sr., who's the Executive Director of Alumni Affairs at Grambling State University. The question is, what methods can be put in place to increase the number of HBCU students that have secured full-time jobs in their field for graduate school acceptances or professional school acceptances by the time they walk across the stage for commencement? And then there's kind of a sub question there, particularly in light of COVID-19 and the ongoing workforce impacts.
The question really frames up something that we're doing at Benedict College that I'm really proud of. We recognize that there are 5 distinct pathways into college for students. There are the traditional 18 to 21-year-old students. There are core. There are adult learners, 280,000 of them in the state of South Carolina, 49% of whom look like us and probably can find a home at Benedict College. We have students who come from military families who will come to participate in ROTC programs and other things. We also have students who are formerly incarcerated and are seeking an opportunity at procuring the skills necessary to help them re-enter society in a successful way. And then 5th, we have students who are aging out of a foster care system. Unfortunately, 140,000 in South Carolina, 89% of which are people of color. 20% of those students will become homeless within 12 months of leaving the foster care system. We have a role to play there. So our best center, which is Benedict Empowering Student Transition Center that we're building on the campus, will have discrete teams, counselors, social workers, placement officers, as well as advisors who will help assist and support those distinct populations based on their unique needs. And then we recognize there are 5 paths out. So our ROTC program has been very successful in securing significant placements for, or commissions, competitive commissions for our armed services folks who will graduate out of Benedict College. Obviously, they require very special care and support. Our adult learners and our traditional students placement into careers. We have a career pathways program at Benedict College that emphasizes internship experiences, meaningful internship experiences. There's value in making coffee and copies, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for meaningful internship experiences that allow our students to translate what they learn in the classroom directly to the workforce, articulate to their resume as meaningful work experience so that they're most competitive when they get ready to go into the workforce. So we're very intentional about that, enhancing that with undergraduate research experiences and study abroad experiences, which are the most valuable ways for our students to gain a global perspective and be best prepared to hit the workforce running. We also have students that, quite frankly, have decided that their passion is for a trade. We accept transfers from community colleges. Community colleges can take our credits too. For students who have come here and decided that perhaps a trade is best for them, why can't we have a reverse transfer pipeline? And then one thing that's important to recognize is that the SREB, the Southern Regional Education Board data suggests that 42% of students graduate in 4 to 6 years from college. That includes your Emory's, your Dukes, and all the schools in the Southeast, not just your HBCUs. So what happens to the other 60? That's an interesting question. I actually care about that. Benedict actually cares about that. And so an outbound placement center for students who, quite frankly, because of money, they've had a child, they've lost a parent, some life has happened, and they can't complete. They deserve a better opportunity than they would have had if they had not come to Benedict College at all. So with a comprehensive approach to transitioning students into college and an equally comprehensive approach with transitioning students out of college, Benedict is committed to ensuring that each and every student that chooses Benedict College, that places their faith in us, that commits to us, leaves here better than when they started. And that's our ultimate goal.
Wonderful. Dr. Dixon, do you want to talk about some of the program and the offerings that you have and maybe partnerships with different organizations, corporations towards that end?
Definitely. I'll just mention that at ECSU, we have made a top priority enhancing our career services area. So much so that part of our reaffirmation for accreditation this year, we're going through that process. We have our quality enhancement plan focused on career services and partnerships to build opportunities for internships and job placement after graduation. And one example that I would use that I'm very excited about, when I stepped foot on this campus 3 years ago, I knew that the campus needed a niche. What makes us different? What are we offering that could attract students to Elizabeth City State University and put us on the map? Well, a lot of people didn't realize that Elizabeth City State University has the only aviation science 4-year degree program in North Carolina. The FAA chose us to produce pilots, but it was a kept secret, and I no longer wanted it to be a secret. And so when I started here, we owned 2 airplanes, and I do emphasize own. We own 2 airplanes, and the state of North Carolina, our legislature, committed funding to our aviation program after conversations about how important of an asset this is to have an HBCU in rural North Carolina that is producing pilots with the only 4-year aviation program in the state of North Carolina. And so that 2 airplanes that I started with 3 years ago, we now have 14 aircraft that we own. And so our aviation program is growing significantly. So another goal that I had was I need to partner with a commercial airline. We no longer need our aviation program to be a secret. Let's put it on the national scene and help people understand that we are doing great things at Elizabeth City State University and helping the FAA produce a pipeline of pilots. And so in doing so, I was appointed to the Women in Aviation board that the FAA put together under former Secretary Elaine Chao. And that board, my membership on that board connected me to some of the senior level administrators across the commercial airlines across the country. And that led to a partnership. I'm proud to say we now have a partnership with United Airlines. And this is just phenomenal for our students. So our students will go through this program with United Airlines and our partnership, and they will come out with placement for a job, and United Airlines helping them to get to that point of employment at graduation. And so we are excited. And that's just one example, but we continue to look for partnerships with business and industry. And I have to say, the more we tell the story of Elizabeth City State University, the great things that are happening here, the amazing alumni that are being produced here, more and more the phone is ringing off the hook where companies want to work with us. And that's what it's going to take. It takes those advocates, as Dr. Artis mentioned, those advocates out there that may have nothing to do with the university, may not even be an alum, but guess what? You can be a friend to all of us, and you can help us build these partnerships with business and industry to help build this pipeline of opportunity for internships and job placement after graduation. So that's just one example, Angela, that I'm excited about, because that has definitely provided us a great opportunity for our graduates and our aviation program to continue to grow and expand. And I tell you now, in fall of 2019, we offered the first 4-year degree in unmanned aircraft systems, also known as drones. And we are excited about that program as well. So we're doing some big things, and we want that story out there.
Oh, that is amazing.
I'm telling everybody I know.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to be tweeting about the program because it should not be hidden. No way.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I remember when Spike Lee and Bill Cosby came to Spelman, to the Atlanta U area to do a different world, and She's Gotta Have It. And I mean, that was such a big deal back in the 80s to have that kind of excitement around the campus. And it's just amazing just to continue to hear the stories of these partnerships and opportunities and how it's really sewing into the skill set and the leadership opportunities for HBCU students. We have a question. I'm not sure if it's from a parent, a grandmother, or I don't know, someone who's supporting a young person, but they're asking, how does one find resources for how to apply to HBCUs? It sounds in the question that they are being discouraged by their counselor to be able to pursue an HBCU education. So where should students go to, give themselves the information they need to try to be competitive to get into an HBCU?
www.benedict.edu. We also, I think most of us are participating in the Black Common app. I urge you to apply, and you're applying to a group of HBCUs when you do that. Get educated. The reality is each of us has a website, perhaps not as well developed as we would like, but they're a pretty good start to learning a little bit more about these institutions. And, let me suggest to you that the research is really clear in terms of quality of life upon graduation. What HBCUs provide for students is certainly classroom learning, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic, math, science, engineering, education, whatever it is you choose to, aviation, right? Whatever it is you choose to major in, but we provide something so much more important than that. A safe, culturally relevant environment where your student can grow and flourish and become confident, strong, intellectually capable leaders who are able to solve problems, who are able to think critically, and who are able to deal in a world that does not always reflect them. Yeah, our financial aid lines are long. Yeah, Wi-Fi is a little sketchy on occasion. We would concede that, but I promise you that what you get in exchange for that is an experience unlike any other. You're watching women on, I am an HBCU graduate, obviously. So many of us have come through these institutions, and the research is very, very clear. The studies have been published that the lifelong connectivity, the confidence, the wherewithal, the leadership skills, and the overall quality of life, and in fact, earnings, long-term earnings far exceed those of students who graduate from predominantly white institutions. We are not culturally confused. We are strong, we are clear, we are Black, we are proud, and we are here to stay. Send your baby to us.
Dr. Dixon.
I would just add, don't always believe what you hear. Come to campus, meet the people, look at the campus and all that we provide our students. It's amazing to me how, people can have a specific perception or a negative perception about something they don't know about, have never seen before themselves, and they can spread that. But until you come and step foot on our campuses, then you see the great work that we're doing. Our campuses are beautiful. And I say our because I'm talking about HBCUs. We have over 100 options here in our country for you to choose from. And don't just go by what you hear. Come visit, step foot on the campus, walk the campus, meet the people, meet the faculty, meet the staff, meet the president, meet the chancellor. We're always looking for people to come visit and really see the work that we're doing. And in most cases, people are shocked. I found that to be the same with ECSU. You think about, ECSU is, in rural North Carolina, it's an HBCU sitting out there by itself, on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. Well, come visit our campus, and the people who come say, wow, I had no idea. And so we got to get them on our campus. So be open to that option. Also, as far as cost, I don't know not one HBCU that is not going to have some type of financial package. So inquire, get more information about the financial packaging. One thing that's very significant for us in North Carolina is Elizabeth City State is a part of the NC Promise program. NC Promise is 3 campuses, and we're the only HBCU of the 3 where our state legislature has put funding aside where tuition is only $500 per semester at ECSU for in-state students and $2,500 per semester for out-of-state students. The state of North Carolina is supplementing the tuition costs that we would have made with charging tuition as we have previously. So NC Promise is in place, and it's in place until 2025. So I say, look at those options, do your research. There are a lot of different campuses out there that have similar packaging or something even different with merit scholarships that they can offer you. But take the time and go visit and sit down and talk with people at that campus and see what they can come up with for you.
Well, ladies, we are unfortunately running completely out of time. And I want to give you each a minute to just tell us, what's giving you the greatest hope for HBCUs in the future as we wrap out and turn it back over to Lucy and the Hunt Institute.
So my students give me hope every day to hear them call and say, are we back? They're excited to return. They can't wait to come home. Yes, we call this home for our students to see them achieve despite the obstacles. We hosted graduation. When everybody else was canceling their graduation, Benedict College hosted one. We recognized that that achievement for so many first-generation students was critically important. So to watch those kids cross the stage now twice since COVID-19 started motivates me every single day. To see the successes, large and small, of our individual students on a daily basis gets me up in the morning. It is the oxygen I breathe, and I hope it's worth the investment of those who might be watching.
Thank you, Dr. Artis, and you're giving us all hope too. Dr. Dixon will give you the last words.
Well, I'll say as well that I have great hope for the future of HBCUs. We see that playing out now, and we have a long history of producing amazing alumni who have gone off and accomplished outstanding careers. Example, U.S. Vice President Harris. I mean, it's there. HBCUs have been doing this for a long time, but now it's coming to be more visible as far as what we're doing and how we're conducting ourselves to make sure that we're producing students to go out and land in great careers. So at ECSU, I'll mention our motto. We tell our students to come to discover your passions and leave to conquer your dreams. And thank you, Angela. Thank you, Hunt Institute. Thank you to my colleague, President Artis, for this critical conversation today. Greatly appreciated. And I hope that we can all collectively continue to move forward together.
Thank you. Lucy, we're going to send it back over to you. And again, thank you to the Hunt Institute for this incredible conversation.
Thank y'all so much. That was absolutely incredible. I am so excited as a North Carolina native. I currently live in Durham, home of NC Central. I am from Greensboro, home of NC A&T. I think this is such a critical conversation, and I am so glad that we had it. So thank you so much for being with us today. This has just been great all around. I think some great things to think about and some great, advice and strategies for people who are both looking to go to HBCUs and support HBCUs. And I am, again, just thrilled that we were able to have this conversation. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of you that joined us. You were also a great part of this, and we couldn't have done it without you. I hope that you'll join us for a couple of our upcoming webinars, including our next one on high quality learning through teacher evaluation systems. The link to register is in the chat for that one, and we hope to see you there. When you close out, there will be a survey. Please fill that out so that we can be continually improving to better support you and our audience. And on that note, I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks.